Okay, I'm back. Computer went to sleep. My apologies. We're talking about market research and not possibility of not having everything that you need um, by the time that you submit the draft or outline, and it's okay to start to show some things being bulleted, but the final version, when you submit it, it should be more in paragraph format, like you were submitting a paper. You should think of this as you are submitting it to someone that you are trying to get money from. Okay, you know, it can be a family member, but you certainly want it to be as professional as if you were submitting it to a banker or to an investor. And you should also think of it this way: that they don't know everything that you know about this business. Okay, that's not what they do. Okay, they may know something, but you cannot assume that they know anything that you know about it. Okay, there's I may try to find the clip, but if you ever saw the movie Philadelphia with Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks, there's a line in there. Denzel Washington says something to the effect of, "Explain it to me as if I were a 5-year-old." Okay, I may try to find that clip and post it. I try to keep that in mind when I'm in different settings and talking with people. You cannot assume that they know anything about it, so you need to explain it in fair amount of detail. Okay, like you were talking to a 5-year-old. All right. So let's move on. Again, we've got a whole week dedicated to market research. There'll be ample opportunity to talk about that. The last page, the last two sections of the grading rubric are the sales forecast, and that is, it says here, provide details, at least annual, but possibly monthly, depending on your type of business, about projected sales. Now, what you need to do, you need to make some determination about the timing of when you are going to make your first sales, as well as the amount, the quantity, the number that you sell, and the dollar amount tied to each. Okay. Number one, I will give you a hint. Um, you, unless you're just a superstar, your first month of business, you may have zero in sales. Okay, depending on where you come from and the circumstances surrounding why and how you open your business, you start your business, that may not be true. But there are many businesses that go months without having their first sale, or and it's not because you're doing the wrong things. It may simply be because you're ramping up. If you're in a manufacturing business, you've got a lot of purchasing to do. Then you've got to coordinate getting the materials in the right places. You've got to actually start producing. Before some buyers may want to see an actual product. So you may have to produce a prototype. So you're in business for 8 months before you got your first sale. Okay, even then your production is light. You do not want to go into it, producing um, 10,000 units a month. Whatever it may be. I don't know. It depends. 10,000 may be a small number, depending on what you're producing. But right out of the gate, you're not producing 10,000 a month. If by the end of year two you're producing 12,000, that's not much of a variance from day one to year two. That that slope is much more gradual. You're going to have a small number of sales in the early days, and it's going to gradually ramp up to a point of full production. Now, we would talk more about those aspects in the ETP 279 class, but I don't. I say that because I really want this to be um, a project where you could truly take this plan out and put it to work for a real product or service. And saying that you're going to have X number of sales day one, it's just not realistic. Okay. The other part of that is the pricing of it. Your product may be so much in demand, your product or service, that you can charge the full amount starting on day one. That would be great. A lot of businesses, and there are pros and cons to doing this, but a lot of businesses may have to discount their prices in the early days in order to get some exposure. Now we'll talk about the cons. I don't know how much at length, but one quick one is that in another week, I mean, or another section. But one of the cons is being seen as cheap or discounted, or as a fallback, or whatever. There's a lot of different ways that you could be viewed if you have this cut rate price. If you're doing it just to get some exposure, that's one thing. But there's a lot of different angles that you need to look at it from. And if you are not meeting your expenses, it doesn't matter how many units you sell of whatever it is you're trying to sell, then you will not be profitable. So at some point you have to abandon that strategy. You have to make money in order to stay in business. If you're not, I'm not insulting charities, but you're a charity. If you're just giving things away, if you're not meeting your expenses, you are not a for-profit business. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't even open the doors. And that's part of what we try to get to here. Is there are some businesses that you should never even get started with. And if you are able to make that determination before plopping down money for rent, for equipment, for materials, for research, for employee cost, if you're able to make that determination before putting your life on hold, your personal life, your family life, stepping away from a job that provides income and sustenance, that is wonderful. That is time well spent. That is money well spent on courses like this, if you are able to make that determination. If the answer is, this is not something I should pursue, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing shameful in that. Not every business is meant to go. I talked earlier in the video that shut off on me about Apple's iPad being put on the shelf for years. Now, that wasn't their only product, but at that time, it could not make a go of it, and so they had to shelf it. Okay, and they're okay with that. If there's something else that you can do, now if that was their only product, they would have never gotten started. Okay, but if there is something else, a related product line that you can implement in the time being, great. If not, you don't need to get started. Again, that's not insulting in any way. People waste a lot of time, money, mental fatigue. Families are broken up. Life savings are spent, and people can be destitute because of the desire to go into business for themselves. And if they would go through processes like what you are doing right now, and I commend you for it, whether you realize it now or not, this is I truly believe that this is going to benefit you, having gone through this course. So, enough on that. But sales forecasting. Be realistic about how much you're going to sell and when. And it is good to show. It would be good to show it on a monthly basis. I said at least annually. A lot of people take the easy way out and they just give a single number. I would encourage you to go ahead and break it down. 12 months. Whether you're plan on starting in June or you plan on starting in September or January, it doesn't matter. Whatever your the first month is, go 12 months from there, and I'll provide you with a spreadsheet actually, and if I haven't done that by a reasonable time, please send me a note to that effect. But you will need a spreadsheet that shows that. And it's not a complicated spreadsheet, I promise you. You could have very little experience with spreadsheets at all, and be able to work in this. Okay. All right, enough about that. We'll have a section on sales as well. Differential advantage. This one is key. Okay. I'm going to try to find a quote. I've got a couple of videos I need to show to you guys. But there's one. There's an author named Jim Collins. Wrote a book. Gosh, it may be 15 years or so now. I don't know exactly, but it was called Good to Great. And one of the things that he talked about in there was, what is it that you can be the best in the world at? And that sounds very lofty and something that may not be achievable. The best in the world? I don't know if I can be the best auto mechanic in the world. But there is some niche within any industry that you potentially could be the best in the world at. And if you shoot for that, even if you fall short, you're going to be the best in your region. You know, whether that be local, the city, county, state, region, whatever. You can be seen as the best in some area. And that is one thing that you really need to focus on. Because you may think, oh, well, it's not possible. I just want to open a store and do this or that. Well, that's fine. That's what everyone else is doing as well. So what makes you different? Why would someone choose you versus the person down the street, or the person around the corner, or the person in the next town? What is it that makes you special? And that's what differential advantage is. What, as it says here, what makes your product or service different from or better than your competition? Why am I going to choose you? Is it because you're listed first in the yellow pages? If that's what you've been relying on for years. A lot of people don't use yellow pages anymore except for as a doorstop, or to start fires or something. I don't know. But with the internet, the prevalence of the internet and information that's out there, a lot of people don't use yellow pages anymore. But the point that I'm getting at is, there would be businesses that would call themselves, AAA pest control, or AAA towing, or whatever, because the AAA, things listed alphabetically in the yellow pages, and so AAA is above anything that any business name that starts with just the letter A. Advantage Towing is listed behind AAA Towing. Okay, Anderson, Anderson Exterminators is listed behind AAA Exterminators. All right. Well, if that was the differential advantage 20 years ago, was that, hey, I had the first listing in the yellow pages, maybe that was worth something 20 years ago. Today, it's not. So if you want to call yourself, AAA women's clothing, or AAA hunting supplies, or whatever, it doesn't have quite the impact as it did 20 years ago. All right. Now maybe there's some other reason, something else about your business that is going to be what makes people choose you over someone else, and you can still have the name AAA Hunting Supplies. That's fine. But that's not your differential advantage. I'm not so sure that it was 20 years ago, but it certainly is not today. And so I hope you get my point. You've got to have something that causes a person to choose you over your competitor. Now maybe it's your brilliance and the way that you're going to market your events. You're going to have special events on site. You're going to plaster the landscape, with billboards, and everyone's going to know you. Maybe that's your differential advantage. It doesn't necessarily mean you're all that great, but you've got a huge advertising budget. All right. What is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you better? What is it that's going to make someone call you instead of call your competition, and is going to be the reason why you're in business for years and years and years, and not just 12 months? When the lease runs out, I'm shutting it down. Can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Or someone signs a 5-year lease. I'm getting off a little bit here, but someone signs a 5-year lease for space, and they end up only being in business for a year. That's another thing. When we go back up here talking about where your location, place, and placement. How much are you going to pay? What kind of terms are you going to get? I new business. Now, that's not being negative, but I would not sign a 5-year lease. I wouldn't, especially in today's market with so many spaces being empty. You have the leverage. You can say, no, what? I'll go down the street here, and you can continue your place. Your storefront here has been empty for 36 months. I know, because I live here. I've been driving by every day and seeing it continue to be empty. Good luck with that, buddy. You have leverage. You can structure the terms. Okay, you may not realize that you have that power, but you can, and it may be that you need to work with someone who's done that. Maybe pulling in a real estate agent, maybe an accountant or attorney, or all three, to help you kind of craft the message, documents that you would want to take to the property owner. But you have leverage in this market, and that's a good thing. All right, again, got off course, but the differential advantage. If it's your location, if you're the only one in the area, if you're, this property where you're going to be locating got grandfathered in from city ordinances, and it allows you to put a sign that's 30 feet taller than anyone else in the area, and you're going to be seen from the interstate, and people are going to get off the interstate to come to you for that reason. There's no sign there now, but by doing your due diligence and your research, you were able to find out that this ordinance exists that allows for this. Okay, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That there are so many ways so many different things that could be a differential advantage. Find it. What is it? Define it, document it, and run with it. All right. Let me see if there's anything else we need to talk about with regards to the marketing plan. I think I'm almost over my time. If you have questions along the way, certainly send me a message in Blackboard messaging system. And okay, so we covered the points and the scoring for the draft, and the outline that's going to be due in week 11, and the ratio of points available for the final relative, or for the draft outline relative to the final, is 40%. So if an item is worth 10 points, then in the final, then the draft outline, that item will be worth 4 points. We talked about the expectations for content for the draft outline as well as the final, and it'll start to become more clear as we go through the topic matter throughout the semester. You'll get a good feel for what you should include, and I can just about guarantee you more is better, which equates to spending more time. More content is better, and in order to get more content, you've got to spend more time on it. Number one, researching it, and then secondly, putting it in a good presentation style format. I don't mean PowerPoint. I don't want to see a PowerPoint presentation. That's not what this is. This should be a Word document. And then also, as I mentioned in the back of your textbook, in Appendix A, there's some good guidance and further information on how you should go about including it. But as far as format and layout, if you want to follow the category headers that I have laid out here, and then include filler beyond what is here, the product, pricing, promotion, the place placement, market research, sales forecasting, and differential advantage, have those as kind of major section headers. That would probably be fine. Um, as I said earlier, there needs to be more than just what I have explicitly defined here. That's my expectation. That's one of those intangibles. If you're kind of on the border between one of these, the definitions of very good versus top quality, that's going to push it over the edge. Okay. When you've included those intangibles. The other thing is that I'll go ahead and say it now so that there's no question later. When I give you feedback and guidance on your draft or outline, I expect those things to be addressed and answered in the final version. I may go lenient on the draft outline, with the understanding that it'll take some time to get that stuff unearthed and put on paper. However, once you are made aware of where you're coming up short, there's no question about what should be in there. And then if in your final plan it's not there, that's going to cost you. So there, I said it. It's out there. There's no question about it. You'll have no recourse with regards to the grade that you receive. So, but I'll say this: it doesn't have to happen. Don't let it happen. Just do it. When you receive feedback, I've been doing this for years. I know what works, what doesn't work. When you get the feedback, work on it, answer the question, resolve the issue, and things will be fine. It's not going to be a big deal. If you don't, you run the risk of receiving a poor grade for the class. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you, and as I said, go ahead and get started laying things out and thinking about what it is that you actually want to produce for the marketing plan. Doesn't have to be a real business. It can be a fake business. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Have that more times than I have people that have a real business that they want to pursue. It's more about understanding the framework and the process of what it takes to do this once you do have something real in mind. All right, with that, I'm going to end.